Fire for your eye. The kosher clinician.
Every time they say you can do it, doesn't matter. But in some cases, think it's all about competition. It's not about competition. It's all about building up. If you surround yourself with people who doing like-minded things, who trying to build on the community, you'll learn from them, with whatever skill they have. But you're all about competing against one another, then it's pointless. That's just what it is.
Okay, 1 second. Catherine, go ahead.
Yes, I just wanted to add real quick, since you all were talking about women and the influence that women may have, which could be detrimental or negative. That's why it's very important to choose the right woman to be surrounded by, because in the same effect, a woman can actually be inspiring. That's when the inspiring component comes. So then if you have the right woman next to you and you're about to fight or do something that it's out of character, then, she wouldn't really encourage that behavior. So that's why I think it's very important, the type of woman. I just have to say that because I'm a woman, and not all women will have that type of behavior, but I know for certain, and it's biblical, nations race against nations because of not having the right woman nearby. So just wanted to add that it's very important that you choose wisely the type of woman that you're listening to, and that you are allowing to have any type of influence over you.
Hey, can I add on that, Mr. Lee, just to prove my point, right? See, when people say, when we have these arguments, right, and not arguing, but we had these arguments, right, and then somebody come and say, hey, not all women, right? Not every single. I understand. I might not be talking to you as an individual, but for us even having this conversation should let you know it's way too many. Because guess what? If it wasn't way too many, then this wouldn't even be a topic. We'd be talking about something totally different. So now, by sheer fact that this conversation has merits in our community, right? If you get in here or you get in the chat and you say, oh, not all women, okay, well, let's not talk about it then.
Man, that's the point.
It's a strong representation of our community. And I'm gonna give another caveat on that, if you don't mind, Mr. Lee. This is the problem. Yes, it might not be you as an individual, but if you allow this behavior to exist in your community, you're part of the problem. If you allow these activities to go uncontested in these communities, it's your problem. If you allow your legislative that you vote for, the people that you vote for, your mayor, your city councils, to ignore these problems, you're part of the problem. That's all I'm saying.
Can I please add to this conversation?
Well, listen, this is a very important topic as we talk about the importance of heteronormative masculinity. And I would say succinctly that a patriarchy is very much important in 2020 if it's fit and proper. In the Hebrew, kosher means to be fit and proper. And if the parameters are fit and proper, no doubt, patriarchy is very important. Our women talk about the importance of love. They often bellow the sentiment of love. But, as Teddy Pendergrass said, he said it better than me, that it's so good to love somebody and somebody to love you back. The feminist war cry was, am I not a woman? Well, the war cry of a man is, am I not a man? And so if men are going to get the outcomes that they need in order to feel comfortable and successful, as I share with the women on my show, that you have to protect his six if you expect him to protect your six. But the problem is, guys that are listening, is this: men can't be themselves for the fear of when they speak truth to power. Many of our women are not mature enough to hear or understand the sentiments of men. The gospel says that open rebuke is better than secret love. So when men begin to tell their story unapologetically masculine, when we bring women to our spaces, it's not our intent to hurt their feelings. But do you want a man to cover the truth of masculinity to assuage your feelings? Or do you want a man to be unapologetically masculine? And so the caveat is that many times men will cower under fear and they don't speak the truth because they don't want to hurt feelings. But the truth is, true masculine men tell the truth. They speak the truth with conviction, they speak it with power, and they speak it with clarity. Because the truth by itself is the truth. And sometimes the truth is offensive. And, you know, I've said before in the past, regardless of how you present the truth, to many, you can say it softly.
Quick question for you. What do bad breath and your poop have in common? And did you know that it's related to weight loss? Research.
You can say it with assertion, or you can say it aggressively. But many times, many are offended by the truth. So, you know, if women want the love and the adulation of a masculine man, then they must be willing to hear the truth of what men say. Because I've told women, Sage Talk, that when it comes down to this, many think they are the prize by default, but you're not the prize. You're only the prize if he deemed you worthy to be the prize. I did a show in the past called He is the Prize Catcher. Men are the prize catchers. They determine if you're prize worthy, like men did 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. So if a woman wants the love and the adulation of a man, she must be willing to come as a participant to the table, to ask herself the question, what am I willing to render unto him to be the best version of myself? Because if you believe in the edicts of theology clearly says that the woman was made for the man. But so many men compromise their power, Sage Talk, because they don't have any sense of self-worth or self-identity. And as a licensed therapist, I've always said in the past that needs drive behaviors. And so when a man is not getting his needs met, he often suffers in silence, or he becomes hopeless because he does not know how to articulate those needs and those feelings that are suitable to helping him become the better version of himself. So if we want to see a semblance of the Black patriarchy in the past, no doubt patriarchy is definitely needed in 2022. But many men are saying that in order to get to back where we were from the past, it'll take generations to bring us back up to that level where we were viable. But many don't think it's going to happen in our lifetime. I don't see it. I think it's a very nebulous concept, but I don't see us getting back to that because we don't have enough masculine men speaking truth to power, standing firm in their masculinity, because we have so many men that have been conditioned to be simps. They've been conditioned to, give their power away.
Bring it out.
Let me ask you this 1 second. Let me ask you this, kosher clinician. After saying that, what would you say would be the one thing that Black men could do to assert themselves into the power of patriarchy? One thing.
Well, listen, Frederick Douglass said that power never conceded to anything without a struggle. The first thing that we got to do, we got to have a council of elders to more or less recalibrate and let men know what their worth is. Many men don't know what their worth is. Therefore, they just accept anything. So I would say that the self-awareness to know, Sage Talk, what their worth is as men. But that comes through conversations like we're having now, when men come together and congregate and talk about more salient issues that are pertinent to the efficacy of a man. So I would say men coming together to more or less have these conversations, to recalibrate their thought process, to know their worth and how they need to demand what they want in a relationship.
That was an excellent answer. And I would say this, I think, maybe Jerry and I should have a conversation to create a channel for the Council of Elders. I like that title.
Right.
And I definitely would want you and myself and whoever we find to be men of wisdom to start creating a board of elders that we can start moving to lay the foundation for a new Black patriarchy.
No doubt.
Because there's enough Black men to make the shift. We just need to gather them together in one place with one mind to be ready to follow one leadership. And a council of elders is, I believe, better than trying to follow one man, because we can put the right ideas together to overcome the difficulties that are set before us. And then the men of power and the men of leadership can go out and execute. So that's definitely something. That was a great response. Absolutely.
Before I go, what you just said right now, I've been saying that for the past couple of months. We need a council of elders that will correct the dynamic of what's going on with the Black community. Because when you don't have the council of elders like we have back in our culture, nothing going to change. Not one person can do all by themselves. When you have a council, they'll discuss, they'll debate what needs to be done for that Black community. From there, they make that judgment call, what needs to be done. No one can do it by themselves. It's never been that way. That's how my culture was built up on. Yes, we need a new sort of black council in our own culture to change some of the barbaric mindset, but it's not being done in based on greed and ignorance. I understand that. What
Well,
you say, talk is totally correct. I have to go. Thank you.
thank you for your contribution. Well, Christ did it with the 12 disciples, and I think that's the blueprint right there as well. Jay Prince, welcome to the conversation. How are you?
Hey, how y'all doing?
Very good.
Can y'all hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. This is a powerful conversation. Um, I want to start off by saying with the patriarchy. Patriarchy, I feel like I believe it do not exist in the black community. What I do think exists in the black community is matriarchy. When you talk about removing matriarchy and replace it with patriarchy, women do, from my experience, women do not mind destroying that because it don't mean nothing to them, and because they can't have that, they don't have that type of power. And so from what I've been researching, since women been on the planet almost for a lot of years, they got the bad end of patriarchy. This is the reason why femininity, feminists, and all this other stuff started. Women's movement started because of patriarchy that was yield in the wrong direction of it. So they don't mind burning that patriarchy down. When you talk to a lot of these women, they do not want to give up the little powers that they do got, especially in the black community. The little powers they do got, and replace it with being, in their eyes, powerless. Um, I agree with everything Logic was saying when you talking about the when women around. Like, if I get hit by a woman, I mean, if I get into a fight with a man, that hit will hit different if a woman around. And I also witnessed situations where, let's just say, man, this brother, everybody's cool. There's a whole bunch of men, everybody cool. And as soon as a woman come around, she could just say, she could say the wrong thing to somebody. First off, no man gonna correct her because they all trying to win her house, that they can get us to fight and kill each other. And this happens a lot. Majority of black men is deceased or in prison for deleting another black man behind of a woman.
Well, I think that goes a
And
lot to what Logic was speaking about when he talks
mhm.
about the ninjas in our community. We really need to get past that type of thinking and behavior, because there's a lower level thinking, behavior, characteristic of black men that are really weighing down black people from moving forward. And they're
And you,
attracting, because of their behavior, they're attracting a lot of the women as well. And the women are following or feeding into that type of behavior because they get something out of it as well. So I think
right, and, yeah,
that's
and I want to say that.
So
it.
I wanna, cause like you said,
Hold on, Logic. I want to say this. I want to say this before you go, right quick, Logic. Um, when you think about people that's when you look at jails, right? One jail is all men, and another jail is all women. Even though when we get violent in jail, it'd be more serious because we men, of course. But when you go to those women jails, it's more fights. It's a lot more dangerous. There's always going to be more fights. And the reason why I feel like a lot of women, when they on the streets, they love to see that because that's who they are. It seems to me they love to see violence. And you know, they don't they and
But
to implement.
that's a subculture that is developing our society based on their lived experience. If you're talking about people who have had a life from their teenage years going in and out of jail, male or female, that's part of their cultural way of living. But we're talking about moving beyond that, because we understand that there's an undercurrent of that ninja social demographics within our society, that we as functional Black men and women who want to see something bigger and better for our society will have to move past. You know, Logic said that we got to breed it out of the community. We just have to not breed anymore. We just have to let
Right.
that which exists die out. But we have to move past them and not regard them to that degree. How do we do that? I think that's going to be the next step. What
Well,
what are we
can I
willing to
ask some real
sacrifice,
fast?
and what are we willing to do? Go ahead, Logic.
I'm gonna ask some real fast on it, right? Because what we did is we tried to, like, let's be real. Like, we tried the organizations, we tried the protesting, we tried all that. And ask yourself this: how do other communities implement change? See, they don't do what we do. They don't, because like I said, like, I'm just being honest, it's all talk, right? And like, if you just say you get a committee of elders, right, it will be all talk until you present the next step. I tell you what other communities do: they hire lobbyists. You pick a location, you pick a region, and then now you lobby. You put your money up. By lobbying, you change rules, because this gender war, it's not men versus women. In our community, it's not Black men versus Black women. It's Black men versus system-fronted Black women. The issues and the leverage that Black women have. Like, that's why I say I'm not even mad at Black women, because they're exercising the leverage that's given to them by the government.
Right. I agree with that.
So now
Absolutely.
what you do is that you can study, and the government sit back and laugh at us. Look at them fighting each other. You know what I'm saying? They fighting each other over our laws. You know what I'm saying? Because the laws put the woman in position. So I say this: why don't you lobby to remove them laws? Why don't you lobby to get them laws adjusted? You got to sit here and take that, because as long as them laws are in place, women will exercise their leverage. That's anything, any person. And it's just like you said, I'm a Black man, and then they gonna give me $3,000 a month for being a Black man, and I know it's not fair, but I'm not gonna take it. No, I'm gonna take it. You always take leverage. That's human. Hey, look, and I don't blame the women, but we gotta quit thinking that it is the women. I know it's not my women. I know it's the system that the women is. The system is leveraging our women. So let's address the system and take the focus off our women. That's why any day I have a conversation with the women, but I will always tell you, look, I'm not fighting you. I'm fighting the system.
But on that note, we can't absolve Mr. Lodger, the women, of responsibilities, the one that adhere to the system that gave them power. Women that are more or less brokering are part of that system that gave them the power to leverage over those men. I have a problem with that. There's a percentage of men that are notable good brothers, but they're invisible to a lot of our women. And so I would say, not because I am a divester, because I'm not necessarily a divester per se, but I do believe that if men are not getting the outcomes that they want, then they just don't participate. They only get with women that are willing to adhere and work with them, and then see their vision, and they work together as a team to build a cohesive Black union, a cohesive Black family. But women that seek to more or less tell men how to broker their power on their own terms, I tell those men, don't even argue with them. You get with women that are willing to follow your lead and to follow your program. But that comes with the proper social conditioning, because many men are broken. They don't even know what their power is. That's why they defer their power so much. Many of them are raised in single parent homes where they haven't seen strong masculine archetypes. And when you don't see that on a consistent basis, then you don't know what your power or your worth is. Men do things based on pragmatism, or they do things based on principle, not based on how they feel. And so until men know what their intrinsic worth is and what their values are as men, the women that are saboteurs of their own ignorance, that adhere to policies that are more or less not for the advantageous nature of Black men, Black women, and the community, then I tell those men to get only with those women that are willing to work with them and to broker with them to help them build a solid infrastructure. And I think that percentage is far and few in between.
But bro,
So,
check it out though. This is the problem. The system does not breed these single parent house. I mean, the women, Black men, do not breed these single parent households. if you really want to look at it at an analytical level, the system breeds it. Because I guarantee you this, and I said this before, you put a 16-year-old girl that's pregnant at the crossroads, and she doing what she doing, she get pregnant, right? She choose to have that baby because she know the system is a safety net. So now, if no safety net exists, you know what that parent gonna do? They're gonna make sure that the girl ain't out there having no kids, and they're doing that. The only reason this behavior exists is because the system is.
You know, they thought I lost weight literally overnight.
Ready for a t-shirt that you'll actually want to wear? Not this, obviously.
Incentivize it. So we got to address the system instead of addressing each other. If we keep addressing each other when we know the system is putting all this in place, we'll be still doing the exact same thing we're doing right now in 10 years.
That's a fair point, Mr. Lodge. I think that's a fair point. In theory, I think it's a fair point. And I do respect your position because you're trying to bring forth logic and precision. But once again, when you look at the last presidential election, just look at the policies only, not the candidate. That some of our women, or a large majority of our women, vote for policies that were sustainable for the black man, the black family, and the community, or did they vote for those policies that were sustainable for themselves? So I do agree with you that there is a systemic issue that more or less play a role in the evolution of how some of these women think. But at the same time, we can't blame it all on policy. God give every man free will. So does policy play a role? No doubt. But when you know better, you do better. So you can't blame it all on policies in the shaping, the evolution of some of these women. Some of these women are willfully chose policies that were not advantageous to the black man, black family, or the community, in my opinion.
And that's why I said lobby, because the policies won't exist. So now, where would the woman have the leverage? She'll have.
I mean, it like what logic is saying. Like technically, if you take certain benefits away, whatever, like it will make you adjust and adapt. One of the things that we need to have a conversation with the women, like across the board, because we all talking about being in America and stuff. And the thing is that there's a lot of different little research, a lot of different polls, whatever, that show that. Sorry to say it, but like black women aren't the top of the totem pole when it comes to mate selection. So the thing is
hey, hold on 1 minute, brother. Hey, can we mute in between? Because I can barely hear him, and then I hear a whole bunch of DJing in the background.
Jay Prince, mute up.
So like pretty much what I'm saying is that our reality, like everything that like we have strong women, we have very strong women, and I applaud every woman for being strong, dealing with their different adverse. But the problem is that all these strong attitudes that we get come from a system that was in place by a different type of woman, whatever. At this time, the white woman was fighting against the white men, whatever, to have more strength within their society, whatever. So the problem is that we also adapted and incorporated that fight into our situation. And I mean, we all came from a poverty type situation. So like our men never had somebody said it before, never had our foot on women's neck. But since women are more social creatures, whatever, they felt that.
I think that between the 60s and where we are now, and you have individuals making decisions for themselves and don't see the value of the person that stands to the left side and to the right side of them, they're gonna. Our sisters have made been. If it was a country, it would implement against you is traitorism, and decisions they made, because a few shows previously, I things that we can do, and Logic touched on it today. I think after we put together this community of table of elders, we definitely can start looking at Black channels in our community here, the Black Manosphere or wherever in this Black YouTube dimension. They want to pledge Black men that are running these channels. They want to pledge towards making a shift for Black men to be in a position of power. It can start out with $100 a month or $1,000 a month. But if we can get 20 channels, 30 channels, 40 channels, $1,000 a month is 40, 50 grand a month. We can start our own organization that can be an organization that can be a political PAC, that Black men in the next 2 years can raise $1 million, $2 million, that we can start putting money behind certain politicians. And we know where we're headed. It's going to be on the Republican side, because it's not going to be on the Democratic side. And we can make inroads in the Black, as a Black political organization, inroads into the Republican Party. Because when you go back and look at where Black men had power from the time of the emancipation of Black people out of slavery, it was always on the Republican side. The Democratic side has always been the enslavement community. We can make that shift now, and we can use our political votes, and we can use our political funds. This community is YouTube can really open up the pathways for us to raise money, come together and unite as men, and make inroads to start eating away. We're not going to take all the money away from the programs in society. But if we could put a dent in it enough to take away the impact, to create an impact, that can start making inroads. And we can address it on many aspects. We can address it in the courts, and we can address it in the policing, and we can address it in the programs that affects our community. And if we can have a dynamic effect over the next 2 elections, 2024, 2028, by 2030, that's 10 years from now, we can have a dynamic shift in Black men having power, executing and setting up a power base for Black male patriarchy. Correction, a Black patriarchy. And I'm telling you, there are women who will come aboard. Within the next 8 years, we can have 100 channels donating to this PAC. And all we need is one to start. Trust me, once we start one, there will be others. But we have to show leadership first, and we can't just talk about it. Yes, YouTube is a place where we can talk and bring forth ideas. But as a man, I don't like talking a lot. I do talk a lot, but I'm also a man of action. As a man of business, where I came from, I made my money by executing and making good decisions for my clients. And this is something that I want to be able to bring to the Black community here on YouTube. And Logic said it, man, we need a Black political PAC. What are we going to do? Can Black men work together? Can we as Black men create a Black organization in the United States, and we can fund it? We can put men in charge who are going to sit as CEO, CFO. We can have a board of directors, and we can run this organization. And we can raise money, and we can put it behind political men that are working on our behalf to get the things done that we need to get done. The key is going to see whether or not we're just going to talk about it on YouTube, or are there going to be men who are going to say, you know what, we're going to be a part of this.
Let me throw a side note in here.
We're going to put our money where our mouth is. Go ahead.
I want to throw a side note in here. And see, because what I do for a living, I have to do the research, right? Do you know the top donation for DC in the last mayor election?
How much?
$150,000. Now, if you look at, like I said, see, that's what other communities do. You know, it will cause us pennies to hire researchers to sit here and say, because what we have to do, we got to start small, and then we got to maximize our money. The thing is, just say we want to do it at the national level, right? That's gonna cost too much money. And now the impact gonna be minimum, because if you do it at the presidential level, then now guess what? The states can exclude everything. Start at the mayor, you start at them lower levels.
Absolutely, we start at the lower levels.
Yes, and then what you do is you hire researchers. You find out, if I got $200,000 and we want to lobby some ideas, where do I have a lot of black people that I can get the most bang for my buck? And then now it can't be to, and then what we'll do is that, I'm telling you, it essentially will start something like a Black Wall Street, because now all the men who have these issues, guess what you can do?
You can donate.
Well, not only could you donate,
you can donate and become a part of the movement.
But watch this. Once we get something enacted, you can move.
Absolutely.
You can move. And then now what I'm telling you is, a lot of people will sit here and say, yeah, whatever. But this is how think tanks work. This is how the ideas come, because now this is the end game. This is the end goal. This is how much money we need. We already understand, you know what I'm saying? Hey, look, last election they had, this was the highest bidder. So now we can add 50K to that highest bid, and now our voices will be heard. And I promise you this, the community within is in, they don't vote based on policies. They vote off emotions. If she got a tight dress and she look good, you know what, she might get the man vote. You know what I'm saying? If she's talking about something crazy, a lot of times people don't do it. So you can sneak attack and you can do it. But like I said, and I like that idea, we got to do it together, and we cannot. We have to, right now in the U.S., we have to make a community. And we absolutely going through the laws, because the laws is the one that kick us in the chest every time.
I agree with that. I'm going to say this, guys, and I have to go for a show. And thank you to the panel. You guys have been awesome. But, you know, for every cogent thought, there are barriers to that cogent thought. One of the barriers I would say is that black people are not a monolith. We were never a monolith, even when we came over the slave ship. You know, black folks were forced into oneness. You know, you had black folks from different parts that were part of inter-tribal warfare, intra-tribal warfare as well. So we're not a monolith. I would say also succinctly that these issues that we're dealing with are spiritual. You know, we talk about things from a, technical perspective. I'm not against that, but a lot of this stuff is spiritual. And then you're talking about liberal indoctrination that a lot of our women have been part of for a span of time. And so I'm not against us coming together as one, trying to bring forth radical change. But a lot of men are burnt out, man. A lot of brothers after this last election, they say, you know what? A lot of our women didn't vote for the community. They voted for themselves. And so I'm not against it, but I just don't see it in this lifetime. Not against it. I think we should take every effort to try to minimize it. But a lot of men are saying they could care less about the current infrastructure that we have. And their focus now, they're saying, is going to be on themselves. That's from anecdotal feedback that I'm getting from a lot of brothers. They said, look, I'm going to focus on myself, because they're looking at it from the long haul. They don't see any benefit. And that's why I said, these conversations are important. But those are just the barriers that I thought that more or less came to mind based on my purview.
Also,
thank you for
can I answer that real quick?
One second, Aaron. Hold on one quick moment. Kosher clinician, one thing I would say is that this is the reason why we have to give those brothers who don't see that there's no other way right now than to go it their way on their own. We have to become some sort of a monolith. You know why? Because the Afghanistans, they come here, they're a monolith. Right. The Chinese, when they come, they're a monolith.
True.
The Vietnamese, when they come there, all these Asian people that are coming to America, they come united as one people. And they're moving into communities, and they're moving like locusts, and they're taking over businesses, all types of business, whether it's gas station, whether it's fish stores, whether it's grocery stores, you name it, whether it's donut shops. I mean, whatever type of business that become available, once they get a wedge in, the whole family comes in.
Do you think any of us will look back in our lives and regret the things we didn't buy?
And take it over. The whole community comes in and take it over. So black men are either going to learn how to move together as one, or we're going to get destroyed one by one.
I agree with
It's
that.
one
I
or
agree
the
with
other.
you.
I gotta disagree with that a little bit. I gotta push back on that.
I don't disagree with it at all.
I agree
Also,
with
Can I push
also
back on that a
Mr.
little
Lee,
bit?
Go ahead, Mandrill. He was here before you, Aaron. Go ahead, Mandrill.
Yeah, quick question for you. Thank you for having me on, and thank you for listening to me and letting me contribute. But this movement that we're doing, of course, we're gonna have to move different, because doing the same thing, that's how they've been beating us and keeping us where we are. Okay, with all the marching and the speeches and this and that, we're doing the same things from the same playbook from 50 years ago. It's not going to work anymore. So this is definitely the right direction. But it's going to take different types of men for this to work. Some of them are going to be more along the side of the think tank. And you're also going to need men of action. Men of action, that's going to be people like more so like me and Mr. Logic and myself. So I'm of the mind that if there's a person who's not going to see this thing through, I'm not beyond just saying, okay, you're out. He can't come. Even with the women, she can't come.
Absolutely.
They're gone. Like, take Kanye West, for instance. The guy's a billionaire. I don't care. I don't care if you got $1 trillion. That clown can't come. He is a liability. That person is a problem. They're out. So along with that, you're going to get pushback, because I get this all the time myself, right? But it's also one of the things that's made me as successful as I have been, being able to do that and being able to sleep at night at the same time. And I reckon it's a trait I can recognize in people like Mr. Logic. I recognize this in him. I've never had a conversation with the guy. You know what I'm saying? Also in yourself. But when it comes to, number one, dealing with the pushback of that, because it's going to be. And also, number two, what do we do with those people that we say, okay, you're a problem. You can't be a part of this. You got to go. That's going to be one of the big issues. That's something we're going to have to answer for, because that's going to be one of the things that our opposition is going to use against us. They're going to find anything they can to say, hey, these guys are going in the wrong direction. Don't listen to them. Ladies, stay on the system. We got your back. We have for all this time, haven't we?
Well, and that's how we'll be able to see.
That's one of the things. That's how they actually convince women to vote for the guy who almost single-handedly killed the black community, and he's now our president.
And that's how we're going to see who is on our side and who is not. And this is going to be a fight, man. Once we put money into the game, and one of the things we have to understand, it's not about an individual. That's why we need to set up an institution, because the institution is what's going to take the hit. And men can be moved in and out in different places. If a man gets hit because he's got some dirt in his background and he's sitting in a position, we can replace him. The institution goes on with the fight. See, we have to stop fighting as individual men, because individual men can be taken out by women, sex, drugs, discrediting your character. But when you put up an organization in front of you, the organization is your battle axe. Your organization is your shield. Your organization is your weapon. And it goes forth and fight against what? Other institutions, feminist institutions, governmental institutions, all the laws and policies. So because we have been trying to fight this thing, as men holding hands and walking and marching during the street and taking the beating ourselves, we need to change the way we fight, because we've been fighting against institutions and governments as individuals. We need to stop that. We need to start building institutions. But you know what? It starts with one, and it only takes one to succeed. And with the right black men that comes together and build the first organization and make the move. Once people see that there's a move that can be made, success breeds success. That's one thing I know from being in sales. Success breeds success. And once we make one success, there'll be others. And for those, whether it's a billionaire or a trillionaire, whatever, for those that want to come on board, we'll take your money. We don't need you.
Right.
Plain and simple. We're
Right.
dictating how this is going to move. Plain and simple.
Right, right. Because I don't mind, like, if I'm involved in it, I don't mind falling on the sword, because when I was in the military, I had to go into my job knowing full well I'm probably not going to come back alive. I made decisions to put other people's lives at risk because the mission had to be completed. I made decisions where I put my own life at risk, where one of which I remember in particular, I knew for a fact, I'm not coming back. I'm not coming back. This is it for me, but I still got to go. I still got to be in front. I still got to lead, and I got to fall on this sword so that everyone else can succeed in completing the mission. I don't mind doing that for the greater good. So my worry is, do we have enough people with that same mindset? Because in my opinion, we're gonna need a lot of people with that trait, understanding that this is for the greater good of the community.
I would say this.
Someone's gonna fall,
Mandro, you know. Let me add to what you're saying there, Mandro. You know, obviously you're a man that have the experience of self-sacrifice. But I'm gonna be honest with you, we don't need a large bunch of men to do this. We need a core group of men that are sitting at the table that are making the decisions. The people who will be contributing to the organization, they will be filling the how can I say, they will be filling the bank, the pocketbook that we need to go fight with. We will hire the people that we need to sit in certain positions, but we need a core group of men that are single-minded, that are united on the mission. And that don't require more than 12 men, 6 men, 8 men. That's just a core group of men. And we will then make the decisions on what take place and ripple throughout the organization. And then we will hire the professionals who will sit in administrative parts of the company. People who are going to be speaker. You know, if you have a company and if we want to make an announcement, they're going to be somebody who's going to be a publicist. They make the announcement. We're going to have one person who's going to be a secretary. We're going to have a CEO or a financial person who's going to handle it. But that core body, which is the board of directors, who is going to direct how the institution move, those are the people that makes the decision for the institution. And that people